about me. So Sarah Hill,
Thank
I'm
you.
a mom of two. I have a son who's in the Army. I have a daughter who does barrel racing. I like to volunteer. I volunteer mostly with a nonprofit organization called Ride a Rescue. We rescue and rehabilitate horses here in the New River Valley. It's actually located in Radford. I'm a local resident. I live here in the New River Valley. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the founding publisher of Blacksburg Living, Christiansburg Neighbors, and Salem Living. I work with local businesses all over the New River Valley and the Roanoke Valley. I'm considered their marketing partner, and I help them with brand awareness building. So that's who I am. That's what I do. I was asked to do this, and like I said, you missed this, but this is my first one. So I don't know if this is your first one, but I don't know how this works. So I'm doing it based on what I was asked to do, and I'm figuring out how to do the job. So I created a plan around interaction. So I'm not here to teach you guys anything. So I hope that you didn't come here thinking that I was going to teach you something. I'm just here to facilitate some thought process, right? I want you guys to leave here today with two things, just two things. A list of 5 referral partners and a 21-day action plan. Who knows the 21-90 rule? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so who here relies heavily on referrals? Okay. Who feels like referrals are inconsistent? Oh. Okay. Well, and it depends is an interesting word because I feel like people use that a lot. And I feel like depends kind of leaves the thought process that there's no clear path, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that to, evoke some thought. So this is kind of the mindset that you want to think of, right? How does this process work? The process being the business growth cycle. So referrals are what grow our business, right? That's how we connect. That's how we develop, and that's how we continue to reach the next level in our business. So thinking about the business growth cycle and thinking about how leads work. So leads work through multiple processes, right? But it kind of follows this process of visibility where they see me, and then developing and building trust, and then creating a decision with that lead, and then asking them for a referral, which then follows us back into that same process again, right? So I think one of the reasons I was even asked to do this was because I had interacted with a few different people who had seen how I do my process of asking for referrals. Mm-hmm. So regardless of when I sit down across the table from a business and I'm sharing with them the opportunity, what I have to offer, I always leave that meeting with at least one, try to get 3 referrals. So it's always asking for that referral, whether they decide to do business with me or not. I want to know who they know. Mm-hmm. If they've seen what I have to offer, they might know someone who could benefit from what I'm doing. So I want to make that connection. So that's the thought process is, building a referral strategy that works for your business. So if you can't explain how someone becomes your client, it's not a strategy. I don't mean that critically. Like I said, I'm really just saying that because I want you to kind of create that thought process. Most businesses never really learn how to build a strategy. They don't really take the time to create that. They create their business, they start offering their services, and then they roll, and then they're just kind of rolling, right? So think about your last 3 clients, just the last 3 people that you connected with. How did they actually become your client?
Well, our last one was a cold call that Bella made. We had a list of 100 or so businesses. Mm-hmm. It was a cold call, and they had a need. They was opening a new building, and it just went from there. It went from that cold call that Bella made, and me and the lady had a 30-minute discussion, and then the next thing led to getting the proposal sent over to her, and we got the contract.
Awesome. So do you know where they found you at? Did someone refer them? You said it was a call. He found them. Okay, so the cold call was you guys reaching out to them. So you were looking to make a connection.
Yeah, and she had a need for a new building that was opening, and it was just perfect time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that one was very random, right? Okay. How about you? The last.
I was just thinking about the last 3. 2 of them were referrals.
Okay.
And then I believe the one before was, we track all of our leads, and he just found us in the web search. for co-working. But yeah, I mean, referrals are huge for us because I think that people, they want to know a real experience that's had with the business, so they hear good things, then yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So really, when you think about the referral process, though, it's not just about someone telling you someone you should reach out to or someone telling someone about you, right? There's multiple ways that people get referred to you. You just had one that was referred to you through a search. So you were brought up in the search. That was an opportunity. That was a referral. So thinking about how you're connecting with people, how people are finding you.
David said his last lead was from someone that he met at Kroger, and one from another contractor came in yesterday.
Nice.
Awesome.
So you get the opportunity to meet people everywhere. I do want to know, was this at the Crowbar or no? Okay, awesome. So yeah, there's different ways that people will connect with you. But how many of you guys feel like you're acting in reaction mode? So does this sound familiar at all? Someone reaches out to you, you respond. Someone asks you, you quote. Someone disappears, you move on. Does that feel familiar?
We've been guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I run a business
better with follow-ups,
yes,
though.
yes. Well, that's kind of a little bit of what I wanted to focus on too, is just creating some intentionality in that follow-up process, because that is where most of us fail as business owners. So what does this look familiar to you guys? A little bit.
Yeah.
Business school, somewhere along the line. This simple sales process, right? Awareness, connection, credibility, offer, follow-up. So awareness being how people find you, connection being that first interaction, whether it's the cold call, whether it's the connection at the Kroger. Then it's building that credibility. Why do they trust you? And then making your offer, developing clear steps. But then again, the follow-up process is really where it's the most important part, and it's where we fail the most. So like I said earlier, like at the end of every meeting that I do with a business owner, I always ask, who do you know and who would be a good fit for this? But I also come with a little bit of intentionality, and intentionality is a really important word. And when you're working on that growth cycle and you're thinking about growing your business, be intentional about how you want to grow your business. Who do you want to connect with? Who is your ideal client? So come in with that question of, I would like to know these 3 people. Who do you know that do these 3 things? That's an easy way to really kind of set that intentionality for where you're going with your business, so that you understand the clear process of what you're trying to do and what your growth plan really is. So let's say someone hears about you from a friend. What do you think their next steps are?
Look you up on social.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're looking to do business with you, or they just want to know who you are in general, everyone looks people up on social media, right? All right. So they look you up on social, then they're going to decide if you feel credible based on your connections and who you are, right? They may reach out or they may not. But if they do reach out and you don't respond quickly, they're moving on to the next person, right? And so that, again, that follow through is so very important with that.
With that, do you have any suggestions on maintaining how many of those funnels can come to you? Like, one of the things we tell people with their Google business profile is, yes, it's going to boost if you turn on that chat feature that it offers. But that means you've got one other place that you need to be monitoring and responding to, or it's going to hurt you because you're not. So do you have any thoughts on how do you manage how many places you're asking for?
I think it's about, and we were talking about this before we got started, is that intentionality, that thought process of who is my ideal client? Who do I really want to work with? Like, you work with anyone that reaches out to you, right? If you have a service that you can offer them, but who's my ideal client? Who's my most profitable client? Who's that person that I really want to work with? And where are they connecting with my type of business at, or where are they connecting with businesses at? That's where you would want to focus most of your energy, right? Because your most profitable clients are going to be what grows your business and builds your sustainability. So I think knowing, first of all, who those people are, like I said, that intentionality of who is the business that I want to connect with, but then also knowing where they're showing up and where they're connecting with people is very important. So it takes that little bit of a thought process. It takes that moment of really sitting with yourself and your business and thinking about building that strategy and creating a plan. And I think that's probably, like I said, a lot of times we're so focused on, I gotta, set up my business. I gotta set up my, I gotta find out who my CPA is. I gotta find out who my insurance provider is. I gotta find out what the legal name of my business is and what's my operating name gonna be. Who's gonna build my signs? Who's gonna graphic my vehicle? Like all these things to think about. But it's that pause and thinking about who is my ideal client? Who is my most profitable client? And where are they showing up at? And that's kind of leading into thinking about your marketing strategy and what you want to do and what you want to spend your dollars on. We were talking about a lot of times small businesses have a small amount of money that they can spend in marketing. It's like, where is that intentionality? Where do those dollars need to go? So thinking about that process in that full thought process, creating that referral network that makes sense for you. Did that?
Yeah.
Follow the thought process. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So really the question really isn't, do you have a process, though? It's really, is the process that you're doing working for you, or is it working against you? Because whether you design the process or not, it's there, it's happening. That sales process is happening, right? And we kind of just started touching on this, but if you think about, not all referrals are equal, right? So who can I connect with that's connecting to the audience or the people that I want to connect to as well? So I'm a firm believer in collaboration over competition. I tell that to people all the time. There are multiple businesses that are offering the same services that you're offering. If you see them as competition, then that's going to create a barrier for connection. If you see them as a collaboration opportunity, then you can actually find referral sources within what would be considered a competition. And that's a great, because not everyone does things the same way. And not everyone is going to work with the one same individual. Like, people also make decisions based on who they know, who they trust, and who they connect with. So they might not feel a connection with business that's offering what you're offering, but then they do feel it with you. And I mean, do you guys, when you think about it, like, who's your top competition in the area?
Yeah, well, our top competition, there's two companies that come to mind, ABM.
Okay.
Or
So you don't feel like there's any competition in the New River Valley?
Service Master, they're the competition.
Okay.
They do some things different than we do.
See?
Yeah. So they do more. Yeah, they do more disaster and restoration, stuff like that.
And you're more of a maintenance,
Janitorial.
continual janitorial services, right? And so if they get connected with someone who's more looking for that maintenance or janitorial service, that can actually be a good referral source for you. And you don't even realize it because you're thinking of them as competition, right?
Sure.
It's just that thought process of, collaboration, but then also thinking about, and just for examples, and we don't have either one of these in here, but two examples that I immediately thought of is, we would have had Northpoint Insurance, realtors, lenders. Oh, hi, Julio. Yeah, so basically, if you think about it like this, a realtor is targeting the same audience that an insurance company would be targeting, that a lender would be targeting, that a title company would be targeting. So those four create a referral source between themselves, right? So instead of thinking of having like 50 people, and don't get me wrong, like BNI groups and networking groups, I'm a member of a networking group. Those are great groups to be a part of, because it's great to be out there and be present and be in front of people, reminding people who you are and what you do. But it's also great to think about narrowing that source down so that you're not collecting from multiple different areas, but having that Power 5. And that's what the worksheet's going to be about. And that's what creating the plan would be. And that's why I said I want your takeaway to be coming up with those top 5. So who are the people who are targeting the same audience that I'm targeting, but offering a different service? Who has built high trust in the community? So if you're expanding into a new area, or if you're starting a new business, who is targeting your same ideal clientele, but has already built trust? So that's where that collaboration piece can come into play too, of like, they're a trusted source. People see them as a great opportunity. And really, I feel like I can share another great example of what I did at the start of my business. So as I was starting the community publications, one of the things that I needed was a partner that did photography. And I really wanted to focus most of the photography that's done primarily is for the people that are featured on the cover. So I wanted someone who was offering high quality photography services for families, but I also wanted someone who was looking to target small businesses or working with small businesses. And I was very fortunate that I was connected to Christina Rose through a referral. And that was really the start process. She already had established credibility and trust in the community. I'd worked for a large corporation. I moved here in 2015, but a lot of people didn't know me because I was busy working. And so when I decided to start a small business in a community that I lived in for almost 10 years, I didn't really know a lot of people. And so that was one of those pieces of like looking for that person who's already built some trust and sharing with them your idea. And if you guys are able to create that collaboration, then you're able to build trust off of their trust and kind of borrow that as you're working in the direction, building your own interactions, and then staying consistently connected to your ideal clientele group, right? So understanding where they're at, but then staying consistently connected to them, I think is really important. So creating that top 5 referral circle, or calling them like your power 5 sources, is kind of what I wanted to focus on today. 90 days, 21 days and then 90 days. So if you guys haven't heard of this, this is actually the process of building a habit into a lifestyle. So it takes 21 days to build a habit. So if you do something consistently for 21 days, it becomes a habit, it becomes natural. And then over a period of 90 days, it's built into a part of you and it's ingrained to who you are in a lifestyle. So taking that same thought process and applying it to your business where you're staying consistent, focusing on that same sort of referral source, focusing on that same idea of who are my ideal clientele, who are people that are already reaching out to them. That's gonna be where your focus would best benefit the growth process of your business, right? And so building that profitable clientele, and then taking that further and moving it into a continual process over 90 days. And then now it's just a part of who you are, a part of your business, and a part of what you do. So that first piece that we want to focus on is that referral circle. And then we want to focus on what the action plan is. And so to start out on the worksheet, the first part at the top is talking about your current lead sources and where your leads come from. So have you guys already wrote some stuff down? Does anybody want to share kind of what they feel like their current main lead sources?
Google.
So
Not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Not surprised at all. So people are looking up your business or looking up a service that you offer, more than likely, and then connecting to you.
Right, so from my wife, I've got social media, and then things like Case, APWA, like direct past referrals, as well as past clients, their referrals.
Awesome. Got you.
I would say right now we're getting a heavy amount of referrals, which is good. That means our community is starting to grow and more people are recommending us. But I was looking at our lead sheet yesterday and it's like Google social media referral, Google social media. I mean, like there's no like one thing. It feels like that it's always that, like it's always a Google search or something like that. So, and with social media, I would say like for us, it's mainly like social media ads. Whereas, I don't think it's because we have like we don't have a crazy large social media following. So the ads help us a lot.
Okay. So how many of those actually feel consistent? You just kind of said like it doesn't seem like there's in one place. So for you, it seems a little random right now. But how long have you guys been?
We actually are celebrating our 1 year this month.
Yeah. Okay. And then you guys are 12 years. You guys are at least at
2022, 2021. I don't know. Time's not real.
Yeah. Cheers is what I was thinking. Yeah.
But I think the most consistent is social media, but directly in targeted groups. Things that people are already kind of going and looking for.
Yeah.
And it's not as much the actual, it is a lead, but it's not, I don't know, I would consider it very similar to a cold call, because 9 times out of 10 it's someone saying, I need a thing, and then it's still that mad rush of, me, and hoping that you're within the first 5 10, so you actually get seen.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're talking about like in the community groups and things like
yeah,
that,
the
what you're saying, yeah.
that or in this case specifically like bridal groups, those kind of things.
Yeah.
There are ones that are supposed to but have not worked. Bridal shows have been horrific every
Yeah.
time. So I mean, I think that's also such an important piece of learning where you just gotta let go, because I keep spending the money.
You're like, I want this
I
to
want
work
this to
because
work.
it is supposed to work.
Well, and I mean, like, that's a great point, is like, I feel like if I can keep building on just this referral network for us,
Mhm.
that could be like our absolute bread and butter, like, obviously maintaining like a social media presence and those types of things, like maintaining consistency, but
Mhm.
for us, I think, you know, people don't go to our social media page, like say with videography or photography, they're like gonna see exactly what they wanna see there.
Right, yeah,
And then for us, it's like, yeah, it's a nice space, but I don't know anything about what it's like to work there. And if I'm, you know, I get all the time that people have been like getting to our e-commerce page and being like, oh, well, I'm not gonna pull the trigger just yet, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost like you kind of have to like pull them in,
Mhm.
yeah, to like, you know, really make sure that, so it's like about making that connection and making that follow-up, like you said.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like just intense referral and then follow-up is like the magic sauce for
Yeah.
sure.
So what does that follow-up look like for you? I just dive in a little bit deeper.
So I have it's like a structure, follow-up structure that I designed, because I have a couple of assistants that help me out too, so I make them follow it too. But basically, when somebody, because like there's a million ways that we can get somebody as like a lead, and you know, the in-person version is like they tour, they email us, or they tour, or they do like a trial day, or you know, they pop in for a day pass and say like, I'm interested in a membership. Or if they send us an email, then obviously like they're also a lead in that way. So after a tour or a trial day, we try to, you know, immediately send like a thank you so much for coming out, you know, let us know what, it's a nice formal email of just like specifically what they did that day, maybe what you guys discussed, and then we're here when you're ready for next steps, you know, looking forward to hearing from you. If we don't hear back from somebody within a week, we just send a quick, like, you know, touch point. And then if we don't hear back again, we send one more and just say like, we're following up one more time. We're ready when, you know, whenever you are to be able, you know, it's structured much better than that, much less like pressury.
Okay.
But still that, you know, we do want their business and we enjoy having them in the space.
Okay. So you have some intentionality to your sales process, because that's really your process, right? How people found you, and then what your follow-up and what your connection is. Where do you think you lose people at?
I think, you know, I think that sometimes we lose people, like they book a trial day or a tour and then they just are like, I'm not even gonna show up. So there's one, is like people like want to like pull the trigger and then they chicken out, or however you wanna say it.
Yeah, doesn't that always leave you wondering, like, why did you even set that?
I know.
Why did you set that?
Well, it's like, it's almost like a, you know, when somebody's like, it's almost like somebody like putting something in their shopping cart and being like, never mind.
Yeah. You just had a thought.
I mean, for me, I might be one of those people, because I also can walk in and go, all right, this is an hour of my time here, but how many hours of time am I going to be spending in here? And I'm also someone that knows I work so much better when there's not someone else that I can talk to and get distracted by. So that's one of my things with co-working, and I think that's a me thing of, I also have to consider as I'm going in, are there people around that I do like and I would talk to? Brooke Brinson's one. She and I have talked about this so much that if we both worked at Q Co-work, we would not work at Q Co-work. We would just talk the day away. So for me, that's some of it too, of like walking in the room and going, okay, can I make myself focus in this room.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because something that I hear a lot from my members that I have now incorporated into like kind of my pitch with people when I'm giving a tour is like, a lot of people think that the reason they're coming to co-working is community, which I do think is one really important aspect and something that we want to drive. But something we've heard from specifically a lot of our remote workers, so people who work from home, they don't like need an office, but they just want a space to come to do some work like 2 or 3 days a week, is that they actually do find that they're more productive in our space than normal. So the community aspect is one thing, but actually it's just that like when you don't have your noise of home around, you can kind of like hone in.
Right, so that's your ideal client, is people
Yes.
who work from home, who need to step away from home to be able to focus on their business.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, because sometimes people are like, I don't want necessarily to be like around other people, or I don't necessarily want to like come and make friends. That's kind of like a nice perk.
Yeah,
You know?
I really just want a place that I could show up and call my job.
Exactly.
And not also be thinking about the dishes that needed to be washed, the clothes that
Exactly.
needed to be washed,
Yeah.
and that needed to be
It blocks
folded,
out the noise.
closet that needs to be organized. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm saying that as somebody who's spent a lot of time working from home, but used to always show up to an office or show up to a place or show up to an event. I think it was really difficult to work through that process. And I actually am in a shared office space now, in Christiansburg. So,
Oh, cool.
what about you guys?
It's the follow-up process.
You lose people in the follow-up process.
It is, because we use some software, say someone calls us, Bella schedules a walkthrough. Right after that, we should be sending an email to them before the actual walkthrough. And then after the walkthrough, we usually send an email, say, hey, we'll work on your proposal, this and that. And after that, there's like a sequence of 3 or 4 emails that we send to them. So we're not consistent there. And I think that's where we're probably losing some of it. And then on the flip side, sometimes I've done so many walkthroughs, sometimes someone's just price shopping or they have real pain. And we're always looking for people that's got real pain to make that change.
I got you.
So
your ideal client is someone who is currently struggling with their current janitorial services, or maybe hiring the people that they were gonna have doing that, and so now instead of making that hire, they're outsourcing that to you guys.
Right.
Okay.
And Bill, I got a new motto now, pain solvers.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Look.
That's awesome.
See, you weren't coming here to be taught anything. You were just coming here.
Free tidbit, there we go.
Facilitate some thinking. That's all I was trying to do.
But yeah, that's on me there. We have to do a lot better, with that follow-up process.
Yeah.
There, because you don't know how many you're losing, at that stage there.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys feel like do you guys work with any like vendors for like people who are trying to sell to you that you kind of like feel like you sometimes learn from the sales process, good and bad?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've learned like a lot from, I'll say like we work with a virtual mail lead generator, and when I was getting our setup with them, I was pretty much like, I'm going to work with these people, but their follow-up was like, you didn't enter an email by the next morning and they were sending you an email like, hey, just checking in. And I'm like, I hate that. So I don't ever want to come across that way to people. Like, I think that follow-up is important, and I do think it's like kind of walking that line of like, hey, I know you're busy, I'm just checking in just to like be at the top of your inbox again to, be here whenever you're ready. But like, I don't ever want to be like putting so much pressure on people that they feel like, okay, this person's just ignoring me and they just want me to be like another dollar bill.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sure you do. Nancy Creed, if y'all are familiar, used to own Orange Bandana, told me one time that she uses a 2x2 rule, which is when you see someone or when you have that first interaction, 2 days later you follow up. If you've not heard back from them in 2 weeks, you follow up, and then from that point on, every 2 months you're checking in. Because sometimes it is time gets away from us, but as long as there's enough of that window in between, you're giving the grace of life will happen. She did say, and I can't remember how long she said, but like after a certain point, you do say, all right, I'm gonna stop contacting, because clearly
You're not.
this isn't going, then that's fine.
I do that after a
Yeah.
year, and you're right, we do the 2 months.
Yeah.
you know, follow.
2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. The other thought process on that too, and I do this because I don't want to waste my time or anybody else's time, and I know everyone is guilty of. Literally, on my way over here, I got a voice text from Christina because we got photo shoots this afternoon. She was like, "I forgot to follow up with you to talk about the timing and the process of the travel to Salem and then back to Christiansburg." And it's funny because it's like I also forgot to follow up with her on that as well. And I think like my favorite thing to do with someone once I've reached out, I'll reach out a couple of days after, I'll reach out a couple of weeks after, and then when I get that 2-month mark, if I reach out and I don't get a response, I will actually send a message and just say, "Hey, you can tell me no. I'm totally okay with you telling me no, telling me this isn't a fit, and I will stop." But I'm very persistent, I'm very intentional, and persistence has been the thing that's helped me to build my business, staying in front of people, because small business owners get very busy. We all do. And we want to do something, we just forget. And I've had multiple people that are now working with me that were like, "I'm so glad you stayed on me because I needed to do it. I just couldn't focus on it at that time. But if you would have stopped, it would have not been a thought in my mind." So just staying consistent and knowing that balance. And I do like the 2x2x2 rule, and I've heard Nancy say that before, and I think that's really a great way to focus. But I actually intentionally saying to them like, "Hey, I am connecting with you because you said you had an interest in what I have to offer, but I'm also happy to now hear no." Just open up the door and say, "Hey, tell me no,
Absolutely.
and I'll close this door and move on." So that should be direct. Yeah, that a very direct kind of state the obvious situation, right?
We just get ghosted right now.
And
It's like, just let us know, man.
Within
Yeah.
We'll
that,
leave you be.
within that same vein, and I'm thinking through that lens of my wife with the bridal piece. With hers, she has a deadline.
Mhm.
Is there a difference that you need to be thinking of in that response when it's, look, after this certain point, I cannot work with you because we don't have time to work together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, and that there are timely things like that, and products that are offered that could be timely. I don't know for you guys so much, and maybe for you, but maybe not. But like,
yeah, for me, it's like if I'm like gonna reach out to somebody like that maybe was a lead, say like 6 months ago, might be because like I have a new opportunity that they might be interested in, so I want to make them aware of it because it wasn't available at the time that they were like touring.
An
or
office
whatever.
opened up. or-
Yeah, office opened up, we have
That
a
makes sense for
new
you.
type of membership that actually might fit their needs better.
Yeah.
So, what
Yeah,
about you guys?
that totally makes sense.
Change those.
I mean, we're always open for more business.
Yeah.
We just fit it in, we make it work.
Yeah, and so I think for
Right,
really for your wife, like thinking about the thought process of saying, "Okay, like I'm not gonna keep reaching out to you because if you want to work
Yeah.
with someone, you've got to make a decision by this deadline." And maybe even, and that could be a great communication for her because like as you're planning out the wedding process, you know these things have got to happen and they're out there, but then what else is going on in your life? What else is happening? So maybe being like, "Hey, just want to let you know your wedding date you said was this day. This is kind of the cutoff to make the decision on who your photographer is. It doesn't have to be me.
Right,
But make that decision, here's the time that you got to make that
just
decision."
keeping that education.
Yeah, and so it's like, yes, the thought process of educating versus selling, or combining education and selling together to where you're offering.
Well, and that way it's not even like you're trying to be like, don't miss out, or
Yeah.
like, like, or even like trying to make somebody feel, I don't know, negatively
Mhm.
because like they haven't
Right.
taken advantage. It's literally just like, this is just a fact and I want to make sure that you're aware because
Yeah.
I'd love to work with you or something
Yeah.
like that.
But even if you don't work with me, like you got to make that decision by this point in time, or you're not going to get great service. You're going to get a last minute rushed, unplanned, and your photos, your videos, nothing about your special day is going to be perfect like you want it because it's going to be very rushed and unintentional. So, okay. So did everybody take a moment and like, don't overthink this, like, but filling this out will really kind of put your business back in front of you. So did you kind of write out where your leads are coming from, which ones feel consistent, which ones feel random? We really just spent a lot of time on where you lose people. So that's kind of the area where you really would want to focus. Because the next step, if everyone's filled that out, would be to start thinking about your top 5. to the businesses that are targeting the same type of clientele that would be your ideal clientele. Who are they?
I mean, like one of the ones, so we've got the case groups here, and you said this earlier, we kind of consider, we've got some core seats, and it's when you get down to mortgage, to real estate, to banking, et cetera, it becomes so much of, we call it our triangle, less so than the sphere, because it becomes, who's your 1, 2, 3 that you know, as you make this sale, you're going to work with each other and it's going to result in business for all three of you. Of course, it extends out to insurance and stuff as well, but I think like title, mortgage, and realtor are one of the biggest, because it's like, well, you gotta have all three or you're not going to sell a house anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and another one that I was thinking of too was like fitness, nutrition, and then like physical therapy, but also like we were talking about earlier, the person that got the brain story, cardinal hydration. And so she would tie into that fitness, wellness mindset. So it's people that are kind of offering completely different services, but also targeting that exact same clientele. Did you guys all come up with that?
Yeah.
And we're actually gonna narrow this down to 3 in a second too. That's the action plan. So you guys have 5, everybody has 5?
Yeah, on top 2 and then, 5 total.
Okay, y'all wanna share?
Could like chamber be one of them? Like the chamber just in general, cause that's kind of like a
I think
referral
so.
network, you know, like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
then yes, I do have that.
awesome. Did you come up with 5?
I did not even start.
Let's start with you
I need
guys.
to make sure my competition's not listed.
Hey, again, collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that, I've tried to get together with some of our competition. Gosh, it was so paranoid, they didn't wanna work with you. Because we might get something that we can't do or don't wanna do, we can pass it to them and vice versa, but it hasn't happened yet, so.
I've heard that experience from a couple of different people, and so my encouragement to them is the same to you, like, keep trying that, and then find that opportunity for you to actually
Sure.
start the process.
Yeah.
Where you get somebody reach out and you reach out to them and say, hey, I don't offer this service, but I know you do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make this connection for you.
Sure.
I actually recently went on as a co-host on a radio show down in Radford. And when I heard about it, when someone that I knew was doing it and I listened in, I was like, this is cool. I wanna do this. So I just reached out and asked, and so he said, sure. But then his like superiors were like, wait, that's competition. She does advertising. You do advertising.
Right.
But it's completely different types of advertising, or at least the platform to start. Everyone's digital advertising is gonna be somewhat similar. But like my platform is the print, his platform is the radio. And so I was like, just try to get them to let us do this, because this could be a great collaboration opportunity. So we had a great time. It was 3 hours on the radio with this guy. And now I've sent him multiple emails where I'm like, hey, I'm working with this guy. He wants some added exposure for a couple of months. What radio packages do you have? Here's the connection. Working with this nonprofit, they're struggling to get some word out. He does love working with nonprofits. So I said, hey, can I connect you guys? Can you guys come up with an idea that's gonna help the nonprofit with getting their message out? So it's become a great referral source from both angles. But at the immediate inception, it was like, oh wait, this is competition.
Yeah.
I think the same thing, like, I've joked about this, there are literally hundreds of photographers in the New River Valley. It also comes down to personality and style and who's gonna work together best. There have been moments where someone has come from Christina, someone has been sent to Christina, someone has been sent to Aspire or come from there. Like, it's not about the ability to do the job 90% of the time. It's more about, hey, are you going to be the right fit for one another? Tulio had a question of knowing when not to pursue. If you're spending lots of energy recruiting, you might be attracting a client who's going to take more energy than you can give.
That's such a great point. Yeah, because then kind of based on what services you offer, if you're having to chase that person down, then are you also having to chase them for other things? For you
Yeah.
guys, then you're chasing for the payment. You're chasing for the next time you come. Yeah, and that, I think that's a great point, because I think sometimes you have to look at what they're gonna offer you as well. That goes back to that thought process of who's my ideal client, who's the most profitable person for me to be working with. And those more profitable clients are the ones you want to put more energy into, because that's gonna help you grow your business. It's not always about dollars, right? It's also about offering a service that helps someone, solves their problem and takes away their pain. But also, like, the amount of energy you're expending on it, is it worth the amount of revenue that you're gaining from it too?
That's why you gotta make sure they're the right fit.
Yeah, ideal clients, very important.
I've heard Brooke and Chase Brinson, owners of Ed and Ethel's, say this before.
Mhm.
Obviously it's gonna be different per industry, knowing your cost of acquisition as well, because then you know where you can have more flexibility, and when it's going to the advertising of, okay, I am spending this much, but I'm saving money by doing it this way because I'm getting more return
Mhm.
than if I'm just, because for them, it's like $350 is the average cost of acquisition per customer. So if they have something come in where they get a $250 item, they've saved $135. They haven't spent $250.
Mhm.
And that, I think, goes into that energy
Yeah.
and time too. We have a consultation call every single one of our clients, because we're gonna talk to you before we know we're gonna sign that contract,
Mhm.
because we've had bridezillas, and more often than not, it's mothers of the bridezillas who they schedule the consultation call, and we're like, oh, thank you so much, and we just move on.
Yeah, yeah, because you kind of know. Yeah, and and a lot of people actually, a lot of businesses that I initially connect with don't actually become a follow through, because they don't want to sit down across the table from me. I want to sit down and have a meeting with you. I want to hear what your business is doing, who you're targeting, what you're offering, so that I know if we're going to be a good fit. Because if within an hour I determine we're not going to be a good fit, I don't want to work with you. Like, I'm going to refer you. I'll be like, hey, I think you need X, Y, Z, and here's somebody that offers it. And I'll refer you to what would be considered my competition or another person that's offering something, because to me, every business needs some form of advertising, but it's not always going to be the same type for every business. It's going to be different. And to your point, not everyone wants to work with the bridezillas, but somebody's got to.
Yeah.
Or the
Like
monster-in-laws.
Yeah, it's getting away from sales and networking, but that's where, like, when I talk to people about pricing and stuff too, if you want to be a chase to the bottom, you can, but the less someone spends, in my experience, the more work they're going to be with you. The people that are willing to invest and understand, they treat you as the professional that you are, not as
true.
this is. And I think we talked about right before we start, it also is hard with small businesses, because it becomes, I only have X amount of money, I need this to work for me, versus I can experiment, I've got more money to play with.
Yeah.
But you still have to play with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I like sitting down across the table from a business, you can kind of learn a little bit about where they're at, if they're in that position. And if that's the case, then you can be more thoughtful about what you're actually offering. For me, ideally, I think the more advertising you do, the better. And I actually just sat across the table from a client. It's an older gentleman, yesterday, and he was talking about another business here in the New River Valley that literally started out, and their thought process was put all the dollars into advertising, all the avenues, all the places, all the things, and just gonna advertise. And he was like, I kind of thought it was crazy. But now I'm looking at it going, wow, that business just blew up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, and I share this with people, a lot of times it's like thinking about how the people connect with you, but also why they choose you too. Because everybody listed off Google as the main source. But if I Google commercial cleaning, I'm gonna get multiple choices, but why would I choose you guys? Then what are you doing where you're staying connected so that you're the choice too.
We showed up at the top.
Yeah, where are you showing up at? Yeah, and show up where your ideal clients are at, because then you become their automatic choice, right? So if you've got your list of 5 businesses, that would be the next thought process would be at the bottom, the 21-day action plan. So this is the thing that you're going to do consistently to build this. So 3 people out of that 5 that you would reach out to, and it would be the top 3. And when I say reach out to them, be intentional, set up a one-on-one, learn about their business, learn about their ideal client, make sure it's a good fit. I mean, you're looking at it on paper, right? You're saying, I think this would be a great, but is it? So being intentional about sitting down, reaching out to over the next 3 weeks, reaching out to one, setting up a one-on-one, sitting down with them, talking with them about their business, sharing with them about your business, and finding out if you can build that referral source through that. And then one system to improve. So when I say system, I just mean like one part of your sales process that needs improvement. I know we also follow-up, because follow-up is on there because that's important, but there's another piece that could use some improvement too. So picking that piece, and then the follow-up process, what is it and how are you going to implement it? So which one are you going to use? What's that look like? And then how are you going to implement it? So that's what I would like for you guys to walk out of here with today. Okay, well, all I want to know is, do you guys feel like you're walking out of here with a plan to improve your strategy, develop your network, and come to BNI groups?
Well, not BNI, because
Or
the
I
chamber
don't know,
has some.
whatever.
Yeah, I'll let that be my
No,
my push out. So thank you, Sarah, for being here today. Before you leave, Chamber has a Tumblr and one of our Virginia 250th memorial, not memorial. What do you say when you're celebrating? It's a challenge
Celebratory.
coin. Celebratory, thank you. Coin to give you for doing this today. Thank you again to Brown Edwards, who is our sponsor for this and this series. We'll plug 2 things that we've got. The Chamber has case groups: Connect, Achieve, Support, Engage. These are referral networking groups. They're already included in your membership. So if you're interested in learning, we've got 5 of those groups that meet at various times. Nancy Creed, who works with us part-time, and like I mentioned earlier, has told us these are the most important meetings of your week. If you treat it that way, you come to the group going that giving mindset, it will come back to you. And again, for us, it's relationship driven. The other thing I'll point out is we have a program here at the Chamber called Invest for Success. While it typically runs September to February, we can still help people with some of their advertisement sponsorships, as well as any events and things you're going to. Marissa will sit down and look into similar work of who's your target audience, who do you want to be, and how can we get you in front of them while you're already doing things here at the Chamber. And then talk to your other advertising partners as well. So that's it for me. Thank you everybody for attending, and we will see you at our next workshop.